something is brewing here in crypto, guys. All right, late stages on Bitcoin in the bear market, so we probably still have another move down. Then I think it bottoms out and maybe a little relief rally here. Like if the altcoins rally, Bitcoin probably rallies with them, right? It's very unusual for Bitcoin. So my guess is if we break out on Solana, XRP, etc., then Bitcoin's going up as well short term. Then I think you have a retrace. Bitcoin flushes down to about 50, and then we're talking potential end of bear market. Something to keep an eye on.
Bitcoin just flashed a number that demands attention. $60,430, up 2.63% in a single day. Market cap, $1.2 trillion. Volume, $41.3 billion, changing hands in 24 hours. This isn't noise. This is a market waking up. But here's where it gets interesting. Gareth Soloway believes something bigger is brewing beneath the surface. He thinks Bitcoin may be entering the final phase of its bear market. Not the end yet, one more decline could be coming. But before that final drop, Soloway sees room for a short-term relief rally first. Here's the reason behind it. Bitcoin has always followed a pattern, a 4-year cycle that has repeated since the beginning. And according to a recent Coinpedia roadmap, the final law in this cycle could land in late Q3 or early Q4 2026, possibly near $39,000. Soloway is watching one thing closely, the support zone. Hold it, and Bitcoin buys time. Break it, and the next leg down could drag price into the low $50,000s, maybe straight to $50,000 itself. The market seems to agree. Polymarket traders are now pricing in a 65% probability that Bitcoin touches $50,000 this year. That call came right after a hot inflation report sent Bitcoin to its lowest level since September 2024. And yet, there's a twist. While stocks look shaky, Bitcoin is holding relatively flat. Resilience, not weakness. But don't get comfortable flat doesn't mean safe. Further downside is still very much on the table. One thing is clear. Bitcoin is standing at a crossroads. The next move could define the rest of the year. Before we begin, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss our latest Bitcoin updates, crypto insights, and market analysis.
When we look at the overall Bitcoin performance today, you can see it's flattish on the day while the stock market is set to go lower, at least today. Now, listen, it doesn't mean Bitcoin can't go lower. I'm just pointing out something that could have been keeping pressure on Bitcoin over this period. I think this was very normal. This was early in June. This wasn't window undressed. This could have been right in here where it was coming down, and obviously the fear over Michael Saylor and Strategies Holdings and are they going to have to sell and etc. One of the things I'm keeping an eye on, we have this pivot trend line to this low. Now, this is where it gets interesting, right? Because yesterday, end of quarter, we closed below that line. But remember, we have not confirmed a breakdown yet based on my confirmation signal, which is in the Winning Trader series, which, by the way, is 40% off on verifiedinvesting.com through, I believe, July 12th. So it's one of our 2 sales that we do a year on verifiedinvesting.com. So this is really a pivotal level here, guys. Hugely pivotal on Bitcoin. Can it get a bounce to the upside? We're going to be watching and see and keep an eye on that here. I'm going to clean it up just a little bit. What I want to show you too is another factor here. So look at this high pivot. This was your all-time high on Bitcoin. Now bring that line down here. And what we can see here is that essentially we've now had stage 1 of the breakdown is complete. All right. Now this trend line here, I'll show you on another chart. Notice how high pivot to high pivot, and you've actually broken out above that. Okay, now you're still going down, and look at how we come right back to it. Let's get rid of that. So again, high pivot, resistance, resistance, and it breaks out, but it still goes lower. Okay, so one of the things I want to point out to you on this is this, and this is a new concept, stage 1 of bear complete. Okay, so this is stage 1 of bear complete. We are now in the second stage of the bear market in Bitcoin. All right, stage 2 bear market. Okay, now why? Why is it stage 2? Well, because you've finally broken out of the initial thing. Now, stage 2 doesn't mean that the bear market is over, and I'm not a believer that it is. I still think we're going lower. but at least the initial stage. Like if you look at a bear market, you have two stages. One is where you're below the main trend line from the all-time high. The second one is you're above it. You'd much rather be above it in that kind of, bear market, because it shows that you're in the late innings of it. You're in the second half of the football match, or whatever you want to call it, or the soccer game. The idea is we're closer towards the end than the beginning in terms of timing. All right. So that's really important here. All right. So the idea here is that right now, whether we get a relief rally or not, that is up to the charts, right? And we're really watching, again, for me, we're watching this area right here. All right. Do we get below and really break down? If we do, where do you guys think we would go? Where do you guys think we would go? Our next flush at most would yield a move down into this range, which interestingly enough is in the low 50s to $50 range if we sold off hard. Now, there is a chance that we could get a bounce here on Bitcoin first and then a breakdown later on. But either way, again, second stage of the bear market is underway.
Ethereum is sitting at $1,613.94, carrying a market cap of $194.8 billion. Trading volume over the last 24 hours? A hefty $11.1 billion. The numbers tell a story of a market still very much alive. However, the bigger picture remains uncertain. Soloway sees something bigger unfolding here. He says Ethereum has entered the second stage of its bear market, having broken above its long-term downtrend before pulling back. That retracement matters. If Ethereum fails to hold its current support, another decline toward the next major trend line could follow. Meanwhile, other voices are echoing similar caution. Crypto commentators Crypto Patel and Kmo have both flagged similar downside targets. Patel is watching the 0.786 Fibonacci retracement level near $1,275, as well as a psychological support zone around $1,000. The theory? Ethereum could dip into that range first, before any real run toward new highs begins. Meanwhile, Solana is telling a completely different story. While Ethereum struggles to hold its ground, Solana has bounced back impressively, flashing real relative strength. Soloway is genuinely constructive here. A breakout above the $76 to $77 resistance zone could be the spark that sends it toward $100. Right now, Solana trades at $77.80, with a market cap of $45.2 billion and $3.6 billion in daily volume. The path forward is clear-cut. A daily close above $80 confirms the recovery, opening the door to $100 and eventually $120. However, a failure to hold $73 would expose the $63 demand zone once again. Let's get back to the video.
ETH is fascinating. So take a look at ETH here, and ETH is now getting sandwiched in a wedge pattern. And this is kind of what I was talking about. Is what's interesting to me is that the altcoins, not all of them. Listen, some altcoins look horrendous on the charts, like MNT. It's very oversold, but I was just looking at it and it just continues to go lower, right? But things like ETH and Solana and a couple others, they're coming to a breakout potential level here. Now, listen, they could break down too. Wedge patterns, you don't know until the break occurs, and then it's usually a big move in that direction, right? So the idea here is, again, you have ETH, major trend line here. Can we break out? All right. But notice how you have your low and you actually didn't make a new low on ETH as well versus Bitcoin did. So there's this little bit of relative strength in the alts. Now, that's very weird for me to say, right? Relative strength in alts? That's kind of strange. I believe that's the reason for that is because the Michael Saylor effect is hurting Bitcoin. And you saw end of quarter, and I really truly believe it, between Michael Saylor issue and then end of quarter window undressing. Because listen, most institutions don't hold Solana, right? I mean, that's not something they're sending out to their clients, or, even ETH. Yes, you have Bitmine or whatever, the Tom Lee stock. But aside from that, most are not. Bitcoin, on the other hand, a fair amount do have on their balance sheets now, right? So that makes sense. But the question is, can we break out here? Can we break out? Now, the question is, I will ask you, are we in the second stage of the bear market on ETH? Look at this, guys. How awesome is this? You have high pivot, high pivot, breaks out, retraces, and it's still there. Now, listen, if it breaks here, it's going to go down to this line again, which would be the next dump. But if it can break out, you actually have some serious upside on ETH. And so, again, ETH is very, very interesting here on the charts. Notice this line is parallel to this line, which is even more powerful that those lines are parallel. Now, I got to get to a couple of these others because otherwise these videos turn out to be too long. But the point here is look at this chart of Solana. Solana is well off of its lows. That is a relative strength signal here, guys. Trend line here. If we can break this trend line at around $76 to $77, this has upside back to $100 on Solana. I am bullish and I am long Solana with smart money crypto members at verifiedinvesting.com. Yesterday, look at that pop on SanDisk to the upside, up 10.89%, almost 11%. But look today, new quarter, and it's already starting to sell off here to the downside. All right, now look at a name like, I don't know, let's take a look at a dog like a Microsoft yesterday, and you can see the last move here, late here. Yesterday was up fractionally, but a very, very weak. But look, Microsoft today, new quarter, that selling is over, and it's already gapping up on it. So notice the inverse relationship where you have like SanDisk and Micron going down first day of the quarter. Other names that have been dogs in last quarter, now they become potential buys, or at least the selling pressure abates.
Bitcoin now sits at a point where the next move could shape the rest of the market cycle. While short-term swings and uncertainty remain, the bigger picture suggests that key support and resistance levels deserve close attention. A temporary rebound could be followed by one final shakeout before a stronger recovery begins. For investors, this is a period to stay patient, follow Bitcoin's price action carefully, and focus on confirmation rather than reacting to every market move. Is Bitcoin preparing for one final drop before the next major bull market begins? If you enjoy this analysis, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We're working hard to reach 1,000 subscribers, and your support means everything to us. If you haven't subscribed yet, please help us reach this milestone by subscribing today. Thank you for being so supportive, and we'll see you in the next video.